them around the room. If you stood in the middle of this room, and you put on the suit, they would track to that terminal over there on the left, and you know, you could walk. It would animate. It would physically, it would animate you as a figure.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, no,
So
please.
one of the things we have at the high school is a pathway in information, which is both digital media and digital music production, and then they kind of merge together. But one of the courses in that is animation, which we're mainly doing on stationary laptops, but to be able to have a room like this would really elevate just the creativity for the students.
The company that installed this did some work at MIT. Obviously, the MIT lab looks a little bit different, but that's one of the reasons why we picked this particular company. That and Rob, our tech guru, was also not here when the system was installed. It updates pretty easily. It's not a very complicated, Mark, you know, too.
Yeah, they send you a USB, plug it right in, the files are right in there, and you can go from there. It's very simple.
And their training is reasonable. So we installed that. Admittedly, hasn't gotten the use that we would have hoped at the onset, but now that we're getting back into like having kids who have done like 3-year course sequences in media, we expect it to be a little bit more robust. And then it's just a matter of making sure they can get in here when these guys aren't working on other things, or they take things to the other side of the wall and everybody plays nice in the sandbox.
If I can take a PR moment, the young man sitting to my left is a graduate of Uxbridge High School and an attendee of many of the programs, and an employee. Are you still an employee? You could talk for just a minute or two about your experience with the Pathways programs. And
I did Pathways so I started off in like the wood shop. Everyone in my family did carpentry, stuff like that, so I enjoyed it. And then junior year I switched to this, doing IT work, and I loved it, you know. Being able to help people is a great feeling, and I never really knew that until like I was in here. Even just, you know, Dr. Baldessari comes in, my laptop's not working. It's helping him, just like, it's a nice feeling. But it's a nice feeling to help people. So I did that my junior and senior year, and from here I help out from here and now.
where are you going to school?
New England Tech.
Great.
I'm going to be an electrician.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, perfect.
And he's a great help to us. And every time I see him in here, I'm happy to see him. So
Thank
thank you. And it was all possible because of the programs. that we have.
Thank you, Dr. Rubin.
Hey, no, you took the classes. I just opened the door. I don't even think I opened the doors. Somebody else does that. So a couple of other quick things I'm just gonna pop out this way real quick. Before we did some of this, you know, changing around even some of the furniture, it was pretty traditional, like a lot of just tables and chairs. And one of the things we wanted to talk about with our kids was putting them in spaces that they will see when they graduate. So we changed out furniture. We made this a little bit sort of half still a library, but also has makerspace capabilities. And the 2 3D printers over here, RISE, R-I-Z-E, is a company from the North Shore. And they 3D print in color. So one of the things that these printers can do that other 3D printers can't is they can render things in multiple colors. If you wanted to 3D print a shoe in multiple colors, it actually extrudes using different colors. Again, this is more for the advanced manufacturing and the media students can use them, but there are 2 of them. One of them it really has to do with the amount of color paints that it can mix into the clear plastic, but that company was pretty handy. And then in the corner, why it's in here and not in a classroom, is because of the air, is the anatomy table. So we invested in the anatomy table 5 years ago with a company called Anatomage. At the time, we were the first or second high school in New England to have one. And now others have, or distribute using a PDF or whatever, the assignment that is connected to the particular unit. When our students are doing their biomed classes, and even their like exercise physiology or any of those, they can actually like go in and, like, we're learning about the respiratory system. You can go into the cadaver, you can highlight just a particular system, you can see how the system works in conjunction. It's all three-dimensional. You can do bisections, you can do cross sections, you can rotate things around, and it's like I said, all, and it's touchscreen too. The only, so again, full disclosures, they are a for-profit company, so they are constantly gonna be sending you, hey, we have this update, and it costs always 5 figures. It's never a cheap update. The cords are probably in the teacher's desk, so that we did not, so nobody did turn it on and play with it.
How much does this cost one?
So there are 3 versions of it.
110?
That's probably what it's up to now. The one when we bought this, we paid $68. Media Lab, conveniently connected to the local access TV. So we teach in here, we teach between these 2 spaces and one upstairs. Our digital media pathways, graphic design, film, photo. We have the ability to, we've invested in like industry level printing. So we have the ability to do like full scale, large scale printing. We have another plotter upstairs that we use for blueprints, and that's different than this. We have unmanned aircraft, so we do have students that will get drone license certified. We've probably had about a dozen kids that have gone through the whole program, like all the way up to getting their license through the FAA, which is actually a really cool step for them to take, because it is legit. They go out to either Hanscom or the Norwood Airfield, and they have to do a road test basically while piloting a drone. But what that's allowed us to do is we partnered actually with public safety to do some videos, like our parking video, like how do you get in and out of the building safely? What's our evacuation patterns look like for fire drills? We had a kid about 4 years ago, he's now a junior in college. We had a student who did a documentary on the role of the river that runs through town, and he actually was on a little like canoe in the middle of the river, flying a drone above him
That's amazing.
as he was like going down the river, and using that footage for his documentary, which was his capstone project. So we've been able to capture some pretty neat things. From a content standpoint, having the cable studio here, we do produce our own materials. We have not had a home game for sports go uncovered in like 6 years. It's been pretty awesome. I mean, every single varsity home game has been covered. If you name the sport, we've been out there, even right down to like sometimes showing like, with the exception of golf and cross country, because we can't get out into the woods.
The boys wear suits and they have the microphones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
And it's like Monday night, it's like Monday Night Football.
And those kids have gone into the industry afterwards.
Yeah.
We also, more recently, you mentioned you had the music tech
Yeah.
class, so we had some kids that were interested in the more audio side of things, podcasting. So, again, partnering with our video folks, with the cable folks, they installed as part of their studio. There's a podcasting station, and help us with buying equipment, which helps us because when we write grants, all of the material that they give us and all the expertise they give us is considered in-kind donation. So that's been very helpful because their equipment we couldn't afford on our own, and it's pretty high end. So no, this class runs like a working shop. So when the kids come in, they know that it's like they're working for a graphic design shop. They have a client, they have somebody they're working for, they have a deadline, they have certain composition that they have to come up with, and the teacher runs it basically like that. He's going on paternity leave, and I need to figure out how I'm going to cover that. I might teach that. There's also a teacher upstairs who teaches the photo side. It's in an art classroom, but they kind of share some of the spaces. if you wanna check out the TV studio, by all means, everything, I don't think he's in. So, we do sound mixing, that's like just straight podcasting. We do have green screen capabilities, which is actually kind of cool to watch folks do. It has a separate, I think, from a security standpoint, it has separate entrance. So people from the community come in, they wanna see here, they just shut the doors. And we can lock them from, it's not usually a problem.
Uxbridge is not, they're Uxbridge, but they're not directly connected to us.
Okay.
They, actually, it's kind of weird that we own all the lights, they own the press lines.
What's going on? What's your name? Like he's so humble.
So, this classroom space is being repurposed. This was like a science slash, I kind of called it the room of requirement, like whatever class needed a class, we kind of threw it in this room because it had a lot of space. We're turning this into an engineering, like the engineering lab. So what you see in the room right now, you see 3D printers, you see tools that have like dial calipers and pulleys and Vex kits and all that other stuff. There's a laser engraver, there's actually 2 laser engravers, 2 bench mills, a giant 3D printer. The Stratasys is an industry grade 3D printer. And then some of the other, like, you know, random things that came from the old engineering classroom, and they're going to repurpose this room. Like, this wall is gonna be all 3D printers. There's like, I don't know, we have like 20 something of them in the building. This class will have probably like 14 of them, ranging from the Stratasys to the replicators to, there's a small one over there that's called a Form Lab, which is a resin-based printer. It can do things that are really, really fine and intricate. And everything you see up there, like R2-D2, the Autobot, the Terminator, C-3PO, those are all Dobots, those are all robotic arms. So our sophomores, our kids in the 2nd level class learn how to program the robotic arms, and the robotic arms that we use, the Dobot Magicians, have either 5 or 6 ends to them, and they learn how to, you know, different tasks required. Like, one has a claw, one has they have a magnet, they have a suction cup, one has can write, one has a little tiny miniature laser printer, and you code it to do different things for you. And so the students will use the Dobots. They're learning how to code, but they're also learning how to code for a purpose, because you may get the project that says you need to learn how to pick up a pinball, a metal pinball, and move it from A to B, and how high can you lift it before it drops? How strong is that magnet? And some of that real exploratory sort of stuff. Challenge we ran into with the engineering is, you know, we are doing things now on laptops, and it is Windows based, whereas the rest of our district has been Mac based. So that has been a little bit of a challenge.
Mike, have you had to put, like, additional voltage, like, in the?
Yeah, so this room, well, that's one of the reasons why we moved down here from the other room. No, and this room behind where the Stratasys is, you can't see it from here. This room also has compressed air. So it has an air compressor built right into the wall, so we have not had to add voltage. What we did have to add, and we're updating this year, we did write a grant that's gonna help support that, is additional switches, because the volume of the files that engineering and digital media uses is bigger than what you would see elsewhere. So like, if you go to share a video file, it can clog up the works.
Yeah, we're having trouble with that
Yeah,
right now.
so it's bandwidth and switches, so we're replacing some of the fiber. And we may decide to, in time, give this like a dedicated cloud-based server to itself in our pathway, just to kind of take some edge off the rest of the building, but we have not done that as of yet. The other challenge that we run into is that Adobe, which is what we use for digital media, and Fusion or Tinkercad, one or the other won't sign a DPA. So that means for us, if you're a student who wants to be in the media pathway, we need parental consent because they won't sign an EPA.
Which means they won't say that they won't share the kids'
Correct.
information.
Correct.
We have a policy now, district-wide, that we, by and large, aren't doing business with people who won't. And we've even had to deal with that with like Unipay. The bank had to change their procedures if they wanted to do business with us, and they did.
Yeah, we had that with Remind. We had to pay
Mhm.
a whole bunch of extra money just to make sure
Yeah.
that they would guarantee that.
But
Yep.
that's, I think that's the next wave of protection of our kids, is protecting their identity, their choices, their demographic information. And we're trying to be ahead of the curve on it. So this year I've had probably 4 or 5 instances where I've had to tell different vendors, we gotta go someplace else if you can't agree to this. Some vendors have adjusted and some have basically said, well,
We won't do it.
yeah, so, depending on how big they are. You know, smaller vendors will make the changes, but big national vendors, they don't need Uxbridge and they don't care. So until like a greater number of clients start to say the same thing, they're probably, some of them aren't going to budge.
Just something of note, just while we're sitting here, you're standing in front of this particular thing has dial calipers, oh, Mike locked it, great. One of the things that if you're a Project Lead the Way engineering program, whether you are or you aren't, one of the MACWIC certification levels for engineering for manufacturers in Massachusetts is something called precision measurement. So there's like a pyramid that MACWIC or Mass MEP, which is a manufacturing consortium, it's how we certify our kids in engineering. The bottom one is like, workplace appearance and safety, and I'm not going to know all of them, but as you go up, it gets slightly more advanced. Blueprint reading, for example, shop math, and one of the skills is precision measurement. Well, precision measurement is not using a ruler or a tape measure; it's using things like dial calipers and micrometers. And dial calipers and micrometers were not part of the Project Lead the Way curriculum. So when our business partners told us this is what we need kids to be able to do, we said, sure, we'll happily do that. So I went to the teacher, I said, you guys do precision measurement? He goes, yeah, we've been using these micrometers that came with the kits for the class. And I said, but the companies want us to use dial calipers. Okay, we'll use dial calipers. About 3 months later, we invited them back in, the business people, and we told the teacher, hey, when they come in, make sure everybody's using dial calipers. And then 2 weeks later after that, a box of 150 dial calipers showed up because they saw that we were invested in what they want to do. But if you look at the Project Lead the Way manufacturing curriculum, you won't see anything about dial calipers. In fact, you won't see anything about micrometers either. It's something that we took on and said, look, we want our kids to be certified in this, so this is what we need to integrate into the curriculum. Same thing with things like that Tormach 440, that's a bench mill. It doesn't require venting, which is one of the reasons why we really liked it for teaching milling. The lasers require venting, and I'll explain the difference between a laser vent and say a vent for a CNC router. When we bought the Tormach, we'd had the bench mill 6100 for that's probably going on 9 years now, 8, 9 years, maybe not that long, 7 or 8 years. They both run the same CNC type programming. The kids need to learn, like if you're engraving a piece of wood versus engraving a piece of acrylic versus engraving a piece of metal, it requires a different rate or torque, and that's what the students are actually learning. But that Tormach is the exact same machine that's used by our interns when they go out to shops. So when it came time for us to decide, like, hey, we feel like we need to update some of our equipment, we asked them which machine. So that's the exact machine. So the kids will use that machine here, and then when Dave puts them out to an internship, if they go into a manufacturing lab, that's the exact same machine. Challenge to that, we spent a lot of time training our teacher on the bench mill, and now we have to teach them how to use another machine. Fortunately, it's fairly similar. It's like if you learn how to drive standard on a Toyota, you could drive standard on a Ford. It might have a little different feel to it, but it's not that different. But our kids are actually the ones who, when they get into the third class? Second or third class? in the pathway, they're using those.
Yeah.
Not so much, again, that's the kind of thing where our first year kids come in and they're like, ooh, look at the cool machine. And they might use the lasers, like we do these, thinking strategically, if you get a new space, we do 2 or 3 pop-up nights, we call them. And we bring in, like, we invite, if you're in grades 2, 3, or 4, in December, come and laser engrave your own Christmas ornament.
Really good idea.
And we do ornaments, we do like little gifts and, you know, picture frames. We basically give them access to the computer. They sit there, it's wild. You see the kids jump right in and they all know how to use Tinkercad. These 4th graders are like sitting there, now their parents are sitting, like, we'll take you on a tour, let the kids play. And then we laser engrave them, and the kids get to hit the button on the laser and watch the thing get engraved. But we do that real time, and within 2 hours, everybody's had a couple of cookies, some hot cocoa, and parents are sitting there going, can I come back to school? And the kids are excited about coming here. So that's like a must. And those sell out for us we've had to expand them. Last year we did 1, but 2 years ago we did 1 night, and I started getting emails 45 minutes after that it was full. So we added a second one, and then last year we did 3. And we used some of the grant money to have the teachers.
We printed t-shirts.
We printed, yeah, we have, I'll show you the other, what the business kids do, is we actually had the kids on the computer design, like, they can design a little, you know, picture or whatever that we can then print onto transfer sheets, and then they can make their own t-shirts. Which is what our business and marketing kids use as a real project tool. And it means you never have to call for, like, when your drama club is doing, you know, whatever the production is, we do all of our t-shirts in-house. We do all of our posters in-house.
And they make us plaques for our retirees, things like that too.
Yep, we do that. Those are the,
Yeah, it means a lot more.
yep.
Just wanna see if there's any-
So what you see in here, as you look around, this is not what this room looked like even 5 or 6 years ago. Everything in here serves a purpose. That's lean manufacturing. If you look down at the floor, you'll see areas that are either yellow taped down or white taped down, and there's a difference between what has a white tape and a yellow tape. You don't need to exercise caution when you drop your bag off in the morning, when you walk in. This was actually something the kids built, because they're like, we come in, we go to work, but where do we leave our bags? If we put our bags under here and we're moving around the table, you could get, you know, you could trip. But if you look at the yellow, it's probably around something that's sharp. The area that's in the corner that you can walk around, you don't have to stay and listen to me, I can show you just about everything. The corner has the 2 pieces of equipment that are CNC related. So we have 2 routers. We have the 2 saw stops in the middle of the room. I'm not going to demonstrate the saw stops, but if you are investing in equipment, saw stops are a must for high school kids.
We have them for
Yeah.
older guys.
Yeah. The guy. Have you ever seen the guy who like invented the thing? Like he like takes a tomato and he used to take it and put his arm next to it.
Yeah.
No, that's not for me. But if you look around, the reason why things are labeled as they are is, you know, the lean manufacturers of the world, you know, discovered that if you're in a shop and you are looking for an Allen wrench and you don't know where it is, time is money and productivity is money. So everything has a purpose. The first couple weeks that the kids are in here, they are not only identifying where everything is and doing scavenger hunts, they're also coming up with ways to make it more efficient. So everything that you see in this room that maybe looks like an efficiency was probably inspired by a student. That pencil sharpener with the pencil sticking out of it did not exist last year. That was a student project in the materials processing 1 class.
These signs, right?
The signs were a student project. And actually they're all over the building, they're not just here. A little bit about the venting. You saw there was laser engravers in the other room. We could not put a laser engraver in here for 2 reasons. 1, the laser itself can sometimes get clogged by dust. Second, you cannot vent a laser out of the same thing that you vent this stuff, because a laser is a fire, and that is very, very dangerous. So, the laser engravers have their own dedicated vent going out, because if a piece of sawdust was left in this from the router, and then you pulled that hose off and put it into the laser, you could start a real, pretty nasty combustion fire very, very quickly. So they don't vent out the same hoses. They can vent out to the same place, but they can't vent out of the same hose. This particular room has a blower in the back. If you look in the back right corner, there's a white box. We actually just replaced that this year, and it's why you look down, the floor is not particularly dusty, because it's constantly venting things up and out into like a dumpster on the other side. The other equipment that you see in here, some of it is donated, some of it is ours. Why we have gone with some of this stuff, like that 3D printer. Some people ask us, like, why would you buy a $35,000 3D printer? You might not be able to replace it. That 3D printer, because it's industry grade, is tracked to work probably about 100 hours a week, 50 weeks a year. We aren't using it that long. So it will last, if that were to last for 100 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, times 10 years, we're not turning it on that often. So yes, we do have to plan for some equipment replacement, but we don't have to plan to replace that every 2 years. That's why we go with industry grade. So one of those routers we bought, the other router was donated to us by our partners of the chamber. We bought one saw stop. There was one that had been here a few years. We bought one. It was like one of our just like budgeted items a couple of years ago. In the corner under that sheet is a CNC lathe, which is used in the advanced manufacturing classes. Again, it's under the sheet because it looks really cool, and we don't want the 8th graders running in here and turning it on and thinking they can use it, because it looks like a transformer. It's not a transformer. And if you look around, you'll see wood, you'll see acrylic, and you might see some plastic, you might see some composite. You will not see metal. We do not work in metal at all. It's super expensive, it's different equipment, and it is just not worth the trouble. I worked in the school with a machine shop, and Dave was there with me. It was a different animal. But everything you see is a student project.
Mike.
Yo.
And
yeah,
the
that's
kids
big
come in,
windows
and when they come in, they're just required to speak the language, and that's it.
That's a shame.
And so, I went, but they got an award at, what was that? award?
Blacksville Valley Superintendent.
Yeah, so we gave them the award for like innovative teaching, and we have more kids taking foreign languages here than probably any school around us, because they don't get grades, and they wanna speak the language. It's very simple, you know?
So this is, so to give you a little bit of context, when this room, when this school was built, part of the predominating feeling in the community was about this competition with the technical school. And, the number of students that were leaving this school to go to the local vocational school. Your kids go to Northeast Regional?
Yep.
Yeah, so we were, at my first and second year here, we would have a class of about 130 to 140 kids in the 8th grade. And my second year, 98 of them applied to the technical school. And of the 98, 46 left. Last year we lost 14. And part of it was like, we had spaces like this, but the person who was teaching here, my first year, she retired right at the beginning of my second year. She was only teaching maybe 1 or 2 sections of foods, and then she was teaching things like college applications, because we didn't really have a guidance program. And the kids were like literally taking classes where they would work on their college applications. It was very, very strange. And this room was literally a standalone class on like food and nutrition. We've changed it into a program which connects back to our business classes. So you do take food and nutrition 1, and there is advanced foods, and then it culminates in a class called hospitality management, where the class runs like a cafe out of this class. And they usually do like a snack bar sort of thing, like during the lunch block. They do not charge kids because things are free and reduced lunch. They keep track of things, they market it, and the class basically has like 4 different teams. They have a product development team, they have a finance team, they have a marketing team, and then they have a group that actually physically will do the cooking. And they rotate some of the responsibilities. But they've learned that over the course of the several years. Part of it is they have to do a business pitch to me because they're gonna ask for money out of the budget, which is in the class. I mean, we were funding the class, but they have to say, this is what we need to make this business run. It's entirely student driven. It has never been the same twice. They've been using that model for now, I think 4 or 5 semesters, and it's never been the same thing twice. In the regular foods and advanced foods classes, they do some of the like Iron Chef sort of things. You know, they do like cupcake wars and cake wars, and you know, if we have, like I said, we have some of those pop-up nights, we'll have them prepare like, hey, can you bake like 5 dozen cookies for like the 2nd graders that are coming in? So it becomes very like they're part of a program. It's not just, yeah, I'm taking foods because it's a class in my schedule. There's actually a purpose to it. We've had some partnerships with Johnson Wales, but where we've had their chefs come in and do some like really kind of cool demonstrations. This particular room, like I said, it was, when I first got here, it was very much just like, you know, hey, we're gonna build a classroom because they offer culinary at the local technical school. And, you know, the hardest thing about it for us is you can still only offer 7 periods of it a semester. And we sometimes have a lot of demand for this class for the kids that are really interested in the business side of it. And then there's also kids that like going home and making dinner means opening up a can of Campbell's and that's it. So they do get some skill. And Dave has interns that are responsible for like going to the food store and doing the shop and taking things out of the purchase orders and learning that side
How
of it
much
as
you
well.
bringing in annually in grants?
Oh, annually?
Yeah.
Actually, already for this fiscal year, we're at about 200,000.
Okay. So, you know, to be able to do this, to give the kids this quality largely on other people's money is what's amazing. And
There's no student project.
whatever our investment is, we are steadfast in keeping it up. You know,
So they don't get in the way of
There's more, once he starts getting the funding, there's more funding that they keep reaching out to him, and we have this, and we have this, and we have this. And it's like every 3 or 4 weeks, I'm like, another 10,000 here, another 15,000 there.
Well, a lot of it, we put it like, for example, the Innovation Pathway Grant, they changed the language of it. So we used to use that money to go to a PD that might have been out of state, and now they don't want you to go to out-of-state conferences. That's fine, we won't use it for paying for out-of-state conferences, but, you know, when I need a team to sit there and like revamp the curriculum for like our grade 8 exploratory, I can say, hey, I've got $5,000 stipends at $35 an hour. That's 10, 20, 30, 40 hours of work. You can get a lot of curriculum done for 30 or 40 hours of work. What I need to do a better job of is now, like, as we're starting to go into the world of like, you know, portrait of a learner, portrait of a guy, we're thinking about our next NEASC visit, and I had a good conversation with Mike about this last week, and you haven't heard this, Karen hasn't heard this. Like, I think there are ways we can bridge it together so that like as we start looking at that, and we could start thinking of this as like a K-12 continuum as opposed to like
Yeah,
really start.
people in the community everybody knows kind of what's going on here. And I hear from people about why can't we bring this to our middle school? And I'm like, I don't see it as middle school. I'm like, why can't we bring it to our kindergarten?
Right.
And you know, so that we
used one of our grants a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
We bought VEX kits. VEX does kits that can be used like for the kindergartners. So like my phone call was to the tech teacher at Taft saying, hey, look, I put this in for robotics kits, but I never said robotics kits high school. It just says robotics kits. And now you go down to Miss Gallerani's class, those kids are doing all kinds of cool
3D
stuff.
printers in their rooms in first grade. So what we want to do is that we understand that what he has here in these pathways is there's depth. You
Yep.
know, they're very tight and there's depth. But what we want to do is we want to expand it, you know, from 7th grade down and just have some type of continuum of it. And just to kind of keep kids thinking STEM, thinking technical, thinking about being creative. And as you said, with the pop-up nights, the parents love it, the kids love it. And just to have, I think in this age of where TikTok has kids, they come into school and they're anesthetized by some of the things that go on in school. And now we have an opportunity to grab them and reconnect them to the type of education that they need now. Things are moving too fast for some of our
You saw in the classroom down there, it was like, you know, one of the things the engineering puts is like, if you don't learn to fail, you'll fail to learn. And then you come in here and you see like life is all about making mistakes and learning from like we're messaging this to the students, and we're not talking about like no one in this building can sit there and recite core values. Like that's not who we are. But if you ask any of the kids, they'd be able to tell you like, you know, probably the toughest skill that we Dave and I talk about this all the time. Toughest skill to teach a kid is resilience, because that means you got to let them fail. And letting kids fail, a lot of kids, especially now, like the parents don't want to see the kid fail. So we've sort of like made this a safe place to make the occasional screw up and then go from there. Like we'll pick you up off the bike and dust you off. And
You have thread in here, you
Yeah.
sewing too?
textile.
Yeah.
Our art class does, we have a textile design class. So yes.
Sewing machines and all that?
No, we do it solely from like an art.
Yeah.
So each day, you look at the cycle. The first day they see the kids is viewing, second day is journaling, third day is writing, the fourth day is office hours, fifth day is listening, sixth day is speaking, and that is her Spanish 2 cycle.
That's fabulous.
The kids all have, every single one of our students has a bin, so they can come in, drop your phone off, slide it in, get to work.
That's great.
And there are desks in the room. I say this is the deskless classroom, but like, you know, when the teacher's conferencing with a kid, she can move it around and just
So
wiggle
they
around.
just talk to each other, is that
Yep.
how that's fabulous.
The idea is like, you're never gonna learn language unless you use language.
Right.
So they've redone the entire curriculum around theme. So like, for example, they may start the year with something about, let's say, I'll use music.
Yeah.
And then they may go into like a unit on art. So now they're learning about, you know, maybe Mexican or Spanish artists, and they're learning words in the context of that conversation. Every day, the first day they'll watch a video. Then the second day they'll do a journal review about something that they've read. Then the third day they're gonna, if they're journaling, they might be journaling about, the question might be, can you describe something about the process of learning, like doing that sort of like thinking about how you think. And the students are graded on a continuum, so they're not graded. It's like the goal is for them to get to the next level.
Right.
And if you get to the next level, when they do their assessment days, the students pull something out of their portfolio and sit with the teacher and say, this is why I think this is the best example of my work.
Yeah,
And they,
I should go on to the next level
Correct.
before we do this, that's fabulous.
it's awesome.
Yeah, that is
Um,
fabulous.
I mean, and the kids own it, so.
Yeah, well, they're learning, see,
Yeah.
that's the thing. They're not just reading it.
Yeah, this
That's
is,
great.
that was entirely, and it was entirely their generation. We didn't force them, they just said like, we want our kids to start using language differently. I said, I'll support whatever they wanna do. Getting parents to understand what a 3 means
Yeah.
versus like an 86,
Yes.
like, that was a little challenging, but we've gotten them there,
Yeah.
I think.
I remember that conversation with the parent about that when I first came here.
That's great.
We had a young lady.
Was we like a B and a 4 is an A?
Yeah,
Not really.
no, not
No.
really.
So we had a young lady a couple of years ago. She was a basketball player. She went to the University of Delaware to study nursing. Seal of biliteracy, did all of our engineering, all of our biomed classes. At the end of her freshman year, she breezed through her introductory classes. She spent this summer in an internship in a hospital because she could do everything in Spanish.
And in Spanish, yeah, that's fabulous.
So she's going to be
Oh, she'll be,
incredibly marketable.
yeah, anybody buy yourself that.
Right here. And this machine
Embroiders.
Embroidery.
Yeah.
computer integrated.
Yes.
So when you do like your CNC, like design on like
Yeah.
a graphic program, you plug it into the design and then it will print it using the embroidery.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, that's,
That's cool.
and we actually like, you know, it'll, you know, that's
Yeah.
one that is actually used, but it's funny, we have some around that we call our scraps. And you can see that they've like pressed it like 4 times.
Yeah, to
because-
make sure it works.
Make sure it works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Oh
great.
yeah, he's still doing the West and Twilight meet, yeah.